This is the eLearn podcast. If you're passionate about the future of learning, you're in the right place. The expert guests on this show provide insights into the latest strategies, practices, and technologies for creating killer online learning outcomes. My name's Ladek, and I'm your host from Open LMS. The eLearn podcast is sponsored by eLearn Magazine, your go-to resource for all things online learning. Click-by-click how-to articles, the latest in EdTech, spotlight on successful outcomes and trends in the marketplace. Subscribe today and never miss a post at elearnmagazine.com. And Open LMS, a company leveraging open source software to deliver effective, customized, and engaging learning experiences for schools, universities, companies, and governments around the world since 2005. Learn more at openlms.net. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the eLearn podcast. My name, as you heard umpteen times at this stage, is Ladek, and I'm coming from a company called Open LMS. My guests today, who are the real show, are Alejando Ruelas and David Kerschbaum. Sorry, Dave. I apologize. I already botched it.
No worries.
Even though we just talked about it, Dave Kerschbaum. And you're both with SAP. And so, we're going to talk about learning experience design. Before we do that, I'd like to give, first, let's figure out where you are. Alejandro, where are you sitting in the world?
So right now I am based just outside of San Diego. So, cloudy, Southern California right now. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Excellent. That's I actually just learned the other day. In my mind, I've always thought San Diego beach, sun, never winter, always summer kind of. But I was disabused of that, and people are like, no, it's actually kind of cloudy and rainy a lot there. I didn't know that. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a lot of doom, gloom, and all that, but it always clears up. So at the end of the podcast, it'll be nice, and I can go and take a break out in the sun.
Sounds great. Dave, where are you sitting?
I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is
like the right polar opposite.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah,
nice.
Yeah,
yeah. I should have known that. You did it right there. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's a insufferable Michigan thing. Is we always show each other where we're from. Interestingly, today I think you and I have like almost exactly the same weather. It's startlingly warm today after 3 weeks or so of like a high of 51 Fahrenheit and just a one shade of gray and leaky skies. So yeah, San Diego, nice. Ann Arbor, Michigan, basically the same place.
That's great.
Exactly.
Well, I wonder if Mexico City is the same place as well. We're unfortunately suffering from the Hurricane Otis that just passed over Acapulco and created some pretty heavy damage down there. And so it is. Yeah, I think we're all in the clouds today, gentlemen. We're all in the clouds. But let's take Ale. Why don't you take like 30 seconds and tell us, who you are, your background, your role at SAP, and kind of just how you showed up kind of at this conversation.
Yeah, for sure. So my professional background is all in education and instruction. I used to be a classroom educator. So I worked in public schools, private education. I even taught abroad for a little bit. So during the pandemic, I was like, okay, what's the next step in my career where I can leverage my educational chops in a new domain? So it's kind of funny where it's like the physical world shut down, but the virtual windows open up, and I just saw instructional design on the other side of it. So I was just talking to folks in the industry, and I landed at SAP, and it's been a great spot so far because I'm an instructional designer now at the learning experience team, and I have great mentors like Dave, and we work on just a lot of different projects across the organization where I specifically focus on onboarding, but I also focus on other parts where to connect learning with business, but I won't give away too much more. I'll hand it over to my conspirator and my teammate Dave.
Sounds good, Dave. What about yourself? Tell us about yourself.
I about 13 years in the instructional design, learning experience design field at several different places. Some doing the work as a vendor, third party. Kind of a thing, and then some. Most of the time, we're working as part of an instructional design or learning experience design team. Came to that from tech writing. But yeah, it was one of those, like a lot of people stumbled into it through some great fortune and luck, and people willing to take a chance, and this is what we've been doing. And
Nice.
yeah,
I love it.
senior learning experience designer at SAP Concur, on same team with Ale.
Fantastic. You both, I stalked you both because you both presented at ATD, earlier this year in 2023. And specifically you presented about why, learning design or learning experience design it's like a bridge, like what is like, and why is it really kind of sort of, how does that vary or differentiate itself from traditional learning design, or how we might think traditionally about education, especially in the adult learner universe? Ali, let's start with you. Like, set the stage for me. Like, what was the inspiration for your talk, and what was the inspiration for this topic itself? Like, why was it important?
Yeah, sure.
Other than you wanted a speaking gig. I mean, other than you wanted to, like,
Nah. It was just a conversation between Dave and I, where it's like, okay, what do we want to talk about, and what do we think will be valuable for people? Now, in full transparency, like we didn't create any of these concepts. We didn't write any books. We're not like really like gurus in the industry, but we are practitioners. So our specific way, how we position ourselves is like, hey, these are our ideas, and this is how we have implemented them. This is what we have learned, and this is some challenges and somehow all the ways that we have addressed those challenges. So we were talking about like, okay, how do we package all this up? And we came up with the analogy of a bridge, where it's like, there's places that you want to go. This is where we are. And what do we do? What do we build with the materials and the techniques, concepts that we have to get ourselves to the other side? It goes a little bit deeper than that, and we can get to these points as we go through this conversation. But one thing that I just want to say up front, where it's like, being from the teaching world, you see certain concepts in instructional design, some other strategies and techniques, and then the more we learn, it's like, oh, the general concept, there's a lot of overlap in a lot of different things. So I think that's good for a lot of your audience, who I assume will be teachers, or a good chunk could be teachers looking to learn more about instructional design, where there's a lot of things, a lot of concepts where like, oh, you can borrow from that. The overall idea is valid. It's just how you apply it within instructional design might be a little bit different. The terms might be a little bit different. So those are some of the things that we wanted to cover in the talk of like, okay, how do we get from one place to the other, and how do we put it all together to get people across our little bridge?
Nice. Dave, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. So I was hearing sort of what I considered an odd debate within the instructional design field. And it was, look, if it's important, the most important thing is to focus on the needs of the learner. And then the weird thing was that it became a debate. I heard the other side, no. The most important thing is to focus on the needs of the business. Like if you don't focus on what the business is all about, what they want to get to, then it doesn't matter how good you make your learners feel or whatever. And it seemed like sort of a loser's choice, if that's the right phrase. And as we began to kind of start thinking about, how does learning experience design differ from, say, your traditional L&D, maybe L&D from 20 years ago, instructional design. I have with the term instructional design just because I think it focuses on the product that you're building, the instructional product. But with learning experience design, it seems to kind of marry those two sides of the argument. Niels Floor is the one who kind of is known for coining the term learning experience design. It really comes out of user experience and customers, all the XD fields. He says the learning experience design is the process of creating learning experiences that enable the learner to achieve the desired learning outcome in a human-centered and goal-oriented way. And so we thought, it's like two sides of a bridge: the human-centered side, the goal-oriented side, and building that bridge. As Ale said, he took a, what was it, in middle school, took a class where he learned about bridge building, and he said what he learned is that you start building it from the two different sides and work towards the middle. So it was kind of the framework that we, as Ale said, we didn't invent anything, but we picked some tools that others have really, I'll say, perfected, and leaned on their knowledge and put them together in a way that's been working for us at SAP Concur. Yeah, so that's
Fantastic.
that's the gist of it.
All right. So Ali, take me there. So take kind of take me to the beginning as you started building this and as you put this sort of bridge idea together. What's this framework look like? What are the different parts and the different pieces that you have put together in order to start constructing this bridge?
Yeah. So the first thing is we just put an idea, the metaphor of like we're standing at a bay, a body of water, and want to get to the other side. The first part of building our bridge, or how we approach building our bridge, is you look to the other side and you have conversations with your stakeholders and you start prepping that side of the bridge. And we have conversations with folks about what are the right metrics, the needles that we're trying to influence. And we have conversation with stakeholders, and we help them through that process. Because a lot of time folks come to us and they say, we want 75% of our learners to complete this certification. Well, it's a start, but it's like, what's the impact of that? What are we actually trying to do? Let's say 75% of people do complete that certification, but nothing changes. Like what then? And we facilitate that conversation with folks. We have a nice meteor, I guess, goal, like a true North Star, and then that helps guide us for the rest of the process. And we lean on techniques like action mapping to help us create to that goal statement. And then from there, we look back to the other side of the bridge and start preparing here, where the next challenge is like, okay, cool, we have a goal, but now who are our learners? Because if we don't know who they are, we can have this goal and we can design for this goal, but if we're not designing for the needs of where our learners are, how can we take them to where they need to be in the most efficient way and best use of resources and the best use of time? Dave, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Nice.
It's well said.
So Dave, then let me ask you this: where, before that process, where do your not the ideas, but the decisions about what needs to be, like the next piece of instructional material you're going to create, or I guess the instructional need, like where do those bubble up from? Are they coming from all different parts of the company? Is it, do you usually find your funnels coming in from sort of like a leadership thing? Like, are you out there, is your team out there discovering pieces, like you're kind of walking the halls and those kinds of things, or what's the answer there?
Got it. So for our team specifically, we've got a process. We have an intake process where we are a part of a larger enablement org, and our audience is the sales and sales adjacent people within our company. So when a need comes, so maybe it is a need where there's going to be an initiative towards, I'm just making this up, but towards renewals or something like that, or maybe a new product comes online, or an update to a product. Those conversations happen with some other people in our enablement organization, who then bring the request through our request system. We use Rike. It works well for us. And then that comes to us. I or somebody else will then vet that request. We'll have those conversations, those initial conversations, where we start to find out they might come to us with an idea like, well, we need e-learning on this thing, or we want a 6-session virtual held instructor-led training on this thing. And it's great, that they come to us in mind with some ideas. And then our job is to find out like what is it about those solutions? What is it about those particular solutions you've thought of that makes sense, and why to this particular problem? But then we'll start asking more questions about what would you like to see? Like, what does success look like for you? What does it matter to the organization? That's where we start building that first part of that bridge, is looking at those organizational goals. And really, we're not, we know we're ready to start talking design once we get those goals well documented. What is it that you want to change? How will you know you're successful? How are you going to measure that? And even why is it important?
Sure.
Yeah. And I think if I can just add a couple, if I can just add just a couple things. This process is pretty new for our organization. Before we had this tool, this project management tool, and this kind of process outlined with all our organization, it was pretty much anybody just kind of reached out to me or someone else on the team, and they could be like, hey, I have an idea. I want to do this project. And sometimes it will be, and I was relatively new to the organization. At that point, I didn't really know who people were, if they were leaders, or if this idea had a lot of backing. So I worked on some initiatives early on where I just learned it was actually someone's just kind of side project. And I worked really hard on it. And at the end, it was like, oh, that was really cute, Alejandro. Like, thank you for doing that. But did it make some impact? Maybe, but it didn't have high like sponsorship backing from leaders. So now with this new process, we know that every time something comes through the pipeline, it's something more formal. There's a request, there's a process, a bit more, people are looking at it like it actually deters a lot of folks. Like, oh, I got to fill something out. You know what? I don't really want to do it.
Sure.
And why do you want me to do it? But they do a little bit of pre-work, so we have a better starting place, and then we can kind of kick off the conversation with a bit more of data and knowledge. It also helps us get more sponsorships. We know, like, if we want to build a bridge, we want to make sure people who are high up in sales or in the org are like, yep, that's the right bit, the bridge to focus on. Or as someone be like, actually, maybe not right now, maybe we just focus on a different area. So it really has helped us become more efficient as a learning organization. So it's like, yes, we are doing a lot of things to improve our instructional design, like processes and chops, but it's a lot of also developing as an org and how to kind of deliver on the actual projects, which have been very interesting.
How often do you find, I'd love to hear like the pre and the post of this new system that you guys are using now. How often do you say no? How often does something make its way through the filter and it lands on your desk and you're like, this doesn't make sense, or, this isn't going to really align with where we're going, or, or maybe you don't say no, or, but, maybe somebody up the leadership chain as well kind of says, let's not do that one.
Well, a phrase that our boss loves to return to, and I love it too, is we can help you with that problem, right? So if we're not going to be building an e-learning or building something training, we will throughout our process of vetting and figuring out this isn't a training initiative, or it's not really aligned with any of our business goals. We can help them to figure out like, well, what really is that priority then, and I think this is a big thing that is really important to someone in our field, is just being able to be comfortable with the idea of becoming a consultant, and helping people walk through the questions that they really should be asking themselves or others, identifying the information that's like, well, I don't yet have this, but it's going to be really important to figure this out if we're going to be meaningful impact. Or, hey, we figured out that this actually isn't a need right now. Maybe it's a need next year, whatever, but that allows everybody to kind of free their resources up towards redirecting towards the, that North Star of what is that stated business goal.
Yeah,
Nice.
I like that. It's like there's times where it's like haven't exactly said no. I mean, haven't exactly said yeah. It's like we're not saying yes. So there's two different examples from the last couple months. A project came in and the team wanted e-learning enablement by the end of the year. So it was super short timeline. We had a really quick call, and it turns out that the best thing for that situation was just like a communication plan, just emails and a couple other things to save people time. And there's like, well, we didn't do any more work, really. We didn't build anything, but like they walked away from that conversation, not with a yes, but like, oh, there's a better way to solve this. And then went along happy. And I think they still found value with approaching us. Could we help them identify what the right solution, right direction to go in? So that's one. We didn't say yes, but we redirected a little bit and still delivered value. And the other one was two projects came in from different parts of the organization. They weren't talking to each other and happened to come in relatively around the same time. So we didn't say, yes, let's do all what you both want, but there was an opportunity to combine those two initiatives into one initiative. So it's in that way where like, we looked at it with a critical eye, provided some consultation saying, actually, what you're both trying to do could be done with one stone instead of two. So that's another way, another example of when we didn't say yes, but this new process helped us deliver value and some learning solutions for folks.
I really like that a lot. That's great. It's, and I appreciate as well the mindset shift into being a consultant or participating in a consultative process.
Yeah.
Let me pose that as a question then. So what's the mindset you think that somebody who is embodying either the instructional designer kind of feeling or like career or the training career in general, the learning and development career, do you still find that that's not a mindset that's there, or is that something that is not, you kind of got to learn it on the job? Like it's not something that people are coming into this profession with?
So just making sure I'm answering the right question. The question is, do people become instructional designers not aware of, or maybe not practiced in that art of consultation?
Yeah, I guess do you find that people who are coming into instructional design or, like Ali, who, found this path, do they generally gravitate and have this sort of natural, attraction to that consultative process? Or is there an expectation? It's like, nope, I'm going to be an instructional designer. We're going to get requests. I'm going to build out things and, articulate, and I'm going to deliver.
That's a great question. I would say, and Ali, I want to hear your answer on this too. But when I started in the instructional design field, would be, I guess, 13 years now. I had no idea that I came from a tech writing background. I wasn't sure really exactly what I was getting into. I don't know that it was as, I guess, as much in the forefront then for people like me. And something that I learned it on the job. I think part of it is growing up as an adult as well, learning how to have those nuanced conversations with people and ask the right questions. But I'd be curious, Ale, when you switched from that career in teaching to instructional design, were you aware of the consultative nature of being successful at it?
I mean, it was a very intentional process, a journey from teaching to instructional design. So I did a lot of research, listened to a lot of podcasts. So if this podcast was around back then, or maybe it was and I just didn't know about it, this is the kind of stuff that I will be doing just to get these insights and these kind of ideas. So I learned that I heard a lot about like, yeah, you got to be a consultant. You got to really get to the core of the issue. You're not just building things. And I think like, even though, right, maybe it's more top of mind or more in the forefront, I think it's always been there. Like, I think a really good instructional designer, maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, was still doing things like consulting, asking those critical questions. I just think there's just more explicit now, maybe more interest in the industry nowadays. But even I think about like teachers, like good teachers are asking good questions, and they're not just getting the curriculum and then just creating activities based off the curriculum. They're looking at it with a critical eye and asking, well, what would we really want our people to learn? And what, after they graduate from the school, what are the things they need to do in the real world? And then building off that, reverse engineering what the learning activities need to be. So I think there's just a lot of overlap there. And I think these consultant skills, leadership skills, facilitation skills, these are all really key skills in instructional design, and also just good skills to have. Because like, I don't know, after I get promoted or move or something, these are transferable skills where we're all going to be able to carry them over to our next position, whether it's up in leadership or another organization. These are just key skills to have in our role now, but also prepare ourselves to build bridges to the next phase of our career.
Mm-hmm. Well, then take me to the next, maybe what we might consider this. Oh, so go ahead, Dave, if you had something to add on there.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah. And in fact, I'm now just for accuracy and clarity, I'm thinking about my initial foray into instructional design. It was really more it was more specific towards course writing. There were other people who were asking all these great questions. So I kind of grew up watching them, right? I grew into an instructional designer really from being a course writer. So had I gone from a different background straight into instructional design, my answer might be closer to Ali's. But it's a great question. I hadn't really thought about it, the question as you did.
Yeah, it's also so contextualized because it depends on your team, how many people on your team, the resources you have, the organization. So it's like if you're a one-man shop, you got to do a lot more things versus if you're just one person on a bigger team, you can kind of niche down and focus. And also, what are your interests? I know there's some people who are like, you know what I like to do is build things. So I like focusing on those the 2Ds and ADDIE, just designing and development. Other folks are like, you know what, I want to do more of the analysis. So yeah, it depends on the individual as well. But great question.
Yeah. Well, so then let me follow up with what is hopefully a equally great question. In that, so the consultative process before you kind of like, let's just say you sign the internal contract to say, okay, look, we've decided on a goal. We know our learners and we're going to start building and create this thing. Take me to that sort of that second half. Okay. Now, we've got our design plans, or we've got our, sort of our agreement about what it looks like. I would say even kind of pre-blueprint. Let's just keep the bridge analogy going here, right? Take me then and flip me over to your skills and how much time you spend managing people, managing budget, managing time, not actually building learning, but just sort of then being that other side of the consulting, like maybe turning your consulting hat around and being like, okay, now I got to manage this thing and make it happen. Over to you. Like that's my question. Dave, I'm going to start with you. Sorry, I didn't actually ask one of you to
No, and I feel like I've jumped in too many times here. I wanted to step aside and let Ali, if he had the thought. But okay, so that's so on our team, the LX designers, we don't manage budget, but we do. One of the things that I am finding is a lot of times, so we have project team meetings. I do on most of my projects like weekly-ish. And depending on if there's been a stated project manager or not, I will often step in as that project manager role. Maybe it's a lowercase p and a lowercase m. I don't know. I don't have a certification in project management, but it is using it's using, as I mentioned, Rike or whatever it is that you have in previous jobs. It was Jira to kind of manage things from a larger project down to breaking it down into smaller chunks, into sprints or what have you. So there's a lot of that. Our team learned from Megan Torrance the principles of Llama. Actually, in fact, I've been mentioning, people who were gracious enough to give me my first shot and that sort of thing. The person who gave me my first shot at instructional design job was Megan Torrance. So I owe my career trajectory very much towards to her, and just anytime you get a chance to soak in her knowledge, do so. But she's taught us as a team. We went out and had a big team retreat, and she taught all of us Llama. And so trying to use those agile methodologies, or a lot like agile, towards our projects in terms of project management, in terms of task estimating, assigning, chunking, that sort of thing. And sometimes you do kind of feel like you're just playing point guard if you're not the one on the team who is building something in Articulate, Storyline, or Rise, or if you're not the one building something in Canva or on SharePoint, whatever. But I feel like there's a lot of joy in that because you leave those sessions and you're like, we're all on the same page. We came up with ideas. Sometimes things came out in those discussions of like, oh, this really is another way to attack this larger problem. We can break it down this way, or there's an alternate way to iterate, or something like that. I did not expect that was where I was going to find a lot of my joy. I thought the joy was going to be in building cool things and sometimes doing voiceover. And honestly, that is fun, right? But
like, do you have a voiceover like award or something in your background, don't you?
Well, I did. I was part of a team at a previous stop that I was on a team. I lent a voice to a project for that. So yeah.
Sorry for that digression, but he has a great voice.
That's okay. It's okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's something I've always loved doing.
My joy comes from.
So yeah. I hope that answers your question. I feel like I may have kind of took it in a.
I love it. No, I love it because ultimately, I'm asking about, there's the conceptualization process with, and I feel like the consultative process has a number of phases to it, right? And that conceptualization phase, and that's where I was asking. It's like sometimes you need to be able to, and I love the two examples you gave, Alejandro, where it's like, look, maybe we're not going to say no, but have you thought about it this way? And you don't really need training or you don't need instruction. What you need is maybe just like a team adjustment or a different management or, maybe a different approach or a process. And then you said as well, you had another opportunity where it was like, wow, we've actually got two people who are coming basically at the same thing. Why don't we, kill two birds with one stone kind of thing. Right. So I love that. But then on the other side of it is we've committed, our team's committed, we have some agreements, and now we've actually got to get it done. And so what does it take to get it done? And we've heard on the podcast many times before about that whole project management role that I think a lot of people did not expect when they decided to become instructional designers, or they're like, look, I'm an educator. I don't want to have to manage up, and I don't want to have to pull teeth with SMEs, and whatnot. Right. So Ali, what's your answer there?
Yeah. A couple things that I can add. One big thing is like, there's almost like a certain level of like negotiation that needs to happen. So say if a project comes through and you say, cool, this is something we can work on. And then it's like, how do we actually get it done? You essentially create a plan or propose something. And there might be some constraints in there because you need to work with people who are in sales, need to be on the phones. And you as the designer were like, well, I would love to talk to this many people for a conversation that is this long. And folks are like, whoa. Like they need to reach their quota. They need to go.
I got 2 minutes for you, bro.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, negotiate. What do I need, and what's the best way to get it? And then you need to almost like at every step of the process, you need to have your sponsors, your stakeholders, kind of on board with that, because you can't just say something at the beginning like, "Cool, we're going to deliver this thing. Awesome, see you in a couple months," and then you circle back and it's like totally different because you need to adjust. And that's the whole thing about being agile. You gotta adjust to those things that come along the way and still be able to deliver what you promise. So at every point, you need to have that conversation with your stakeholders and like, okay, this is how we want to do it. Actually, that's not the best way. Okay, cool. What are some other ways that we can do it? And you can still kind of move along the project. So that's the first thing that came to mind was negotiation. The other thing is focusing more on learners, and we did touch upon personas in our talk at ATD, but we're trying to loop in our learners and learn directly from them as much as possible. And when that's not an option, we have created some personas that we can lean into. Again, we have learned from Megan Torrance, but we have applied. I'll just give an example of one story where we actually applied personas in our practice. We were called to, actually both Dave and I, to do to help consult on a project launch. And we're like, awesome, cool. We would love, in this negotiation again, we would love to talk to this many people. And they're like, actually, this thing needs to launch like next month. There's no way we can get anybody that like for you to interview or observe or anything. And we're like, dang, like we don't even know who these people are. Like, what can we do? Luckily, our team had been doing some work on personas, and there was a folder in our SharePoint where we're like, it was like a Hail Mary. We typed in the search bar their positions, and we got, I think, yielded two personas. And we're like, they were one pagers, but it still was enough for us to like look and be like, damn, these two people are totally different roles. People are thinking like we'll have one enablement for these two personas, and then the next conversation we come in, we're like, hey, folks, we found these personas. What do you guys think? Is this valid? And like, yeah, that's pretty much our people. We're like, well, it looks like we have two different needs. We're gonna having one enablement session where we have outlined, it's not gonna fit the bill here. We need to have two sessions. So that was helpful because we weren't able to actually talk to anybody in person, but we were able to get insights with just a couple of clicks. We're still in the process. I think we're always iterating on personas in our materials. So we're much better positioned than we were last year. And next year, I'm sure we'll be in a better position. On top of that, we're always looking to connect with our learners. But it's nice to have a lot of different resources and things we can reach in the back pocket if we ever need to.
Dave, you sound like you want to add something there. Yeah.
Well, I was partially just clearing my throat, but
then what I want to say is what you're both describing as well, and Ali, especially with that example that I find personally fascinating. And I'm not sure who has written about it or if anybody's really articulated it super well. Is it's all those little spaces that you fit in, right? While you're managing a project, or when a project comes to you. Because it's not an engineering role where it's like, look, there are physics here that we have to solve for, right? Like if the the weight or the tensile structure or whatever, like those things, and it's really that malleability of that conversation of saying, just like what you're saying, you want us to build something, you've got an extreme timeline, we can't talk to learners, so we've got to figure out a way to do something. But we want to make sure it has some kind of value. So you validated, your process by bringing those personas there and whatnot. But I'm absolutely just fascinated by that. Gentlemen, I cannot believe that we've already been talking for almost 40 minutes here. I have one more question for you both that I would love to go into. And that is something that I don't think actually we've talked about on the podcast all that much. And that's delivery. So we kind of talked about making the blueprint. We've talked a little bit right now about managing that project, but as learning experience designers, what does it look like and feel like, and how do you get to that point where, okay, look, here's the ribbon cutting ceremony, the actual handover where you're kind of like, okay, we're done. Does that ever happen? And if so, how does it happen? Ali, I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, it happens. We deliver, and I think I'm enjoying the sharing examples, and I feel like it adds a lot of color and context. So,
100%.
Two examples. One was we just needed an update at traditional e-learning, and the delivery there was a very boring just email where it's like, yep, it's live, awesome, great, it's new. It's more like a maintenance of something, that a program that already existed. So that wasn't anything exciting.
Right.
The other one was a larger initiative, which was a self-enablement project, which was something we've never tried before. But there was a lot more intention and design around change management of like, we create something. Now, how are we going to drive awareness of this new thing, desire, buy-in, adoption, and then reinforcement. So we had a launch date, and that was great. And then afterward, there were conversations kept going, like, okay, cool. What's the best way to communicate this to the stakeholders? How do we communicate it to the leaders so that they can then cascade it down? So we needed to write paragraphs where the leaders could just take it and make it super easy for them to just change a couple words, change the tone, and communicate it out. So there was a lot of work to help and ensure the success of the thing after it got delivered. So a lot more work. So it's like, now I'm learning all these things and techniques to help ensure the success of something after I have designed it, after I have delivered it. It's like, so that's been something that's been kind of top of mind for me. Was it that specific thing successful? It didn't reach the mark, but now we're having conversations about, okay, cool, what happened? These were the metrics that we established. Didn't reach them. Why not? For the next time, what are we going to do differently? So yeah, there's still many more conversations that happen after the delivery date. Dave, I'll hand it over to you to see if anything. I'm sure you have lots of things that you'd like to add.
Oh, I just like, you hit on two things that are perfect. One, which direction do I go with this first? So one, the idea of done. That's what made me originally laugh, is because I think done is a dangerous word.
It was. I mean, it's a baited question, right? Like,
exactly. No, I think it's a yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
So, and it's dangerous because it's if you worked on something for so long, so hard, you've had so many people, and you've been looking forward to this finish line, right? You do cut the ribbon. And that's good, and it should be celebrated. But the danger is in saying, that's it, we're done, let's forget about it, right? Because what if you just built the perfect solution to, to something, but you don't find out until you get it in front of those first groups of learners that, oh, you were off by just like 3 or 4 degrees, right? Once you learn that, like Ale said, was it a perfect solution? It's not always going to be a perfect solution. Maybe it rarely is. But if you use your evaluation afterwards, like if you have an evaluation afterwards, then cutting ribbon isn't done. And that gives you some insight into where do we need to make a little bit of an adjustment. So the other thing, though, that Ale, you mentioned, I'm really glad that you mentioned it, because I don't hear it spoken of enough. I think within the instructional design, the learning experience design circles, is change management. And it's something that just within the past year or two, our team learned the ProSci method, and really understanding that reinforcement is so key to, which is not surprising. Reinforcement is so key to successful change management, and who reinforces it is really important. You need leadership buy-in, you need buy-in, you need like visible reinforcement from people who carry weight, people on the leadership level, people who are seen as credible within the organization. And I think for a learning initiative, there's no difference between that and any other initiative within an organization. If it's going to impact your KPIs, your metrics that your business cares about, you need that change management built into your plans.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, this has been a fantastic conversation. And what I love about these conversations is we kind of knew where we wanted to go, but I think we were able to talk around this, this learning experience design process. And I really appreciate the specific examples that you put on the table, especially Ali. That was really fantastic. Any closing thoughts, like as you're looking towards 2024, like what's one thing that you're shifting in your career as a learning experience designer that maybe you know, a new muscle that you want to grow, a new technique that you want to bring into your practice, anything that's shifting that you're excited about? Dave, maybe start with you.
I'm hoping I'm not stealing yours, Ale.
But that's all right. We share a lot of interests.
Ale and I both have had a chance to go through the ATD's MPC, the Master Performer Consultant certification. We're actually in the middle of it still because we need to do our capstone and that sort of thing. But it's going to help us to really become even better at that performance consultancy, which I think is just a skill that, especially for what we do, but in so many areas of business, of life, what have you, is just really important. Getting to the, hey, what really matters here, and who's doing this well? What are they doing well that's different from other people? And how do we use that information to make some recommendations? Like just all of that. I'm excited about our team having the chance to build some of that muscle. Personally, I'm excited about building that myself.
Ali?
Cool. You didn't steal anything from me, Dave. It's still important. But I just have two quick things. One is improving my data skills. Implementation and the learning data strategy of our organization is maturing right now, and I want to be one of the ones who is a leader in that role. But I don't have like the analysis skills, spreadsheet, Tableau, and all these things. There's people on our team, like greater team. There's two of them who are amazing, but we need to kind of upskill those specific skills specifically within our learning experience team, so we can be a bit more independent, and I can go in and do those calculations. I think that's going to be great for evaluating the impact of our learning initiatives to the business. And the second thing is thinking about consultation and how like instructional design before, how it is now, and like new folks coming into instructional design. What are some things to think about outside of development of the actual assets is establishing equal business stature. And that's language that I have stolen from my salespeople, that my learners that have actually taught me something from the sales world. And I think it's important is when you are for like a salesperson talking to like a CEO, you actually get nervous. Like, oh, that they have no time for me. They're really important. I'm just a salesperson. I see myself sometimes going into calls with general managers or high leadership, and I'm just an instructional designer. I sometimes feel that same thing. I'm just an instructional designer. I want this. They don't have time for me, or if they do, it's very little bit. But it's like you got to establish that precedence of like, actually, you're both on the equal level. Yes, they have a higher title than you, but if the goal of the project is valid and you're trying to move legit metrics here and it's important to the business, then you're actually on the same level for that conversation. And that has like a mental shift. When you come in and you're more comfortable and talking to people, asking the critical questions, pushing back on some folks. And I think at the end of the day, they appreciate that because the insights you take out are more insightful. And I think you also elevate the brand of your organization and yourself as a worker and in instructional design. So those are the two things that I'm looking to develop.
I'm going to leave us on that note. That was absolutely fantastic. Thanks so much. Dave Kerschbaum and Alejando Ruelas, you're both with SAP Concur. Learning experience design is your thing. And I can't thank you enough for taking almost a full hour out of your day to talk with me today and everybody who's listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ladek. Yeah, it was fun.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.